and welcome to Pop of Passion. Join me, Jax Barker, comedian and highly sensitive person, along with a guest every other week as we delve into our deepest passions, from being a plant dad to conquering insecurity with comedy. If you relish the memory of an unexpected late-night conversation with a stranger about their obscure passion, the kind where you have tears in your eyes one second and are doubled over laughing the next, this is the podcast for you. Hello and welcome to Pop of Passion. I'm Jax Barker. I have two guests I'd like to welcome today. One of my guests does not work out, much to the surprise of those with vision. My other guest is so phobic about lotions he gets very dry and staticky in the winter. One winter day he went to turn on the TV and a bolt jumped out of the power button, zapped his finger, and the TV blew out and never worked again. They are both performers, writers, and actors who specialize and have been credited with birthing a purely Chicago-style comedy that is beloved worldwide. If you were to ask any comedian who their favorite living comedians are, they would surely name this pair. Welcome to Pop of Passion, T.J. Jagodowski and Kevin Dorff.
Hello, Jax. It's
Hello.
Kevin. How are you?
Great, thank you.
Hi, Jax.
Hi.
I don't know if I believe most of that, Jax. I don't know.
The ever living comedian part is real, but the other stuff sounds made up.
No, honest to God, I have been listening to podcasts for ever since I graduated college 6 years ago, and the number of times I listen to comedians talk about comedy and they mention both of you is off the charts. And I have proof because I text my cousin Caitlin every time it happens. I'm like,
oh,
yeah.
Well, I mean, there's no way you get a Kevin Dorff body without putting some hours in.
Well, I feel like I have been preparing for this episode for 2 weeks, but also I've been preparing for this episode since January 7th, 2015, which was the day that I took my first improv class at Second City. The reason I took an improv class is because I like performing and I knew Kevin did it. And shortly after, I got a recommendation to see TJ and Dave. And that is when I was like, okay, so this is the thing that I'm going to do now with my life. And here we are.
Kevin and I were both similarly screwed at probably a similar age.
Right about the exact same. Yeah, exactly. You said 2015, so you're 1 year out of college when that happened, right?
Yeah, 7 months out of college.
Exactly.
Moved home.
Yep.
My
same
mom's
exact age.
Get out of the house. Go do something. What do you want to do?
Yep.
I'm like,
same thing.
Improv, yeah.
I was 10 months out of college.
Yep.
Yeah. I was out of college, but not having graduated it. I was literally out of college. They told me you can't come back in to the college.
They took your keys.
Yeah. Our doors are open for learning, but not for you.
Well, I think that has served you well. So we all have. No,
you've chosen wisely.
Yeah, we all have a different journey. And I guess I kind of spoiled my question, but I was going to ask, what is your passion? If you say it at the same time, that would be kind of cool, but do whatever you want.
Our passion is
long form
improvisation. That's true. That's true.
I was just going to do long form and let you finish it. And it kind of worked out. Yeah, just like that long form that you mentioned as the Chicago style. And I think that's a pretty good term for it because it really was really, really, really developed here. I mean, it was developed in other towns and places and cities and times, but we were around. TJ and I were definitely around.
Yeah.
For the part where it was kind of getting expanded and applied in new and different and good ways, sort of and it's already like evident that, people that we were with, and including ourselves, are good friends, and our other performers have gone on to make it work for other kinds of forms, feature writing and half-hour comedy on network and all over streaming and cable too. So people have been using it for all sorts of things. But yeah, it's Chicago style. We loved it then, and we love it now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I am in agreement. I love it. Nothing better than some good long form improv.
Jax, I wish there was a cure, and I would offer it to you.
I know. This is in a lot of ways. I think she's coming to us for some answers.
It is. It's like you're joining the leper colony. You're hey, I joke.
You didn't tell me there was a door out of it.
All right. It's amazingly wonderful, and it's something that once it's in your blood, it's like a heavy metal. You can't necessarily have it leave your system.
Right.
Yeah, and I find for me it impacts so many different parts of my life, with not just how I act or interact with people, but also I do things because I'm like, one improv teacher, Rachel Mason, said, go out and do stuff. Don't go to improv shows every single night, because if you don't go out and live your life, you have nothing to do on stage or talk about. Yeah. And also you're not a well-rounded person, and that's important. So
yep.
How do you guys think you've brought improv into your world?
Well, I can, I was just what you were just talking about, going out and doing things, and that way you have something to bring back to the stage when you return to it. I can, I can point to just 1,000 things that I've done in the very long time since I started. Like I was, I'm in my 50s now, and I started when I was 22. And the road trips I've taken, the art I've gone to see, the shows I chased down and went to go see, the performers I went to go see on a whim, on a rumor. Yeah, yep. The fans, like I always remember things like going to other, like I'd be touring as a actor, like at Second City Touring Company, and being in another town like Worcester, Mass, or Lima, Ohio, and just going and just kicking doors, really, just sort of, trying the handles on the church door and seeing if it's open in the afternoon and going in there.
Yeah.
And I did stuff like that left and right. I always wanted to just find out, where the stuff was, and go looking for it. And traveling, of course, is a great way to do that. But you could stay in the same city and still, just by taking the Western bus down to where it ends, and then getting on a different Western bus back to where it ends up north, you can see a ton. And that's 2 hours. And the time it takes to listen to 2 podcasts, you've just been somewhere and back, and you've seen a bunch of different stuff.
Absolutely.
Just riding the Western bus.
Yeah.
That's a Chicago reference, so I'm not going to bother explaining every Chicago reference.
But you picked a very kind of generic street name, so a lot of people can relate to it.
There's a Western in your town, and it has a bus. Go take it to the end of the line and back. You'll see what I'm talking about.
Exactly. Yeah. TJ, do you find that you take improv into your life, like not on stage?
Like I'm always wary. There are a lot of us folks who will almost use improvisation as a synonym for a form of self-help that you can bring into the world of like, yes, and be curious, and don't say no. And I'm for some reason, maybe it's because I just have such disdain for the term self-help. That section of the bookstore was the aisle I did not want to go down. Right. That I try and keep them separate. But I know I'm in a good spot in real life when I'm doing a lot of things that I would do on stage, of being a really attentive listener, of not worrying about my own ego or self, of just being an emotionally responsive, attentive partner for someone in conversation. Yeah. If I'm walking around that way in the world, then I know I'm in a good spot right now in life. I know my head's in the right place. And similarly, if I am self-absorbed and anxious and all the stuff that makes a performance poor, then I know I'm in that same headspace when I'm out on the street doing something similar.
That's a great move. Like I love that, TJ. It sounds like, you have a bad show and you're like, well, that was bad. Tomorrow's a different show. And that, you can do that with your whole day if you need to.
Right. I mean, that was a bad interaction.
Not a bad way to go.
That 7-Eleven interaction. It just seemed like a simple transaction at a store. I should. I'm gonna go back in and make that a little something more.
Should I make it more complicated or less complicated? That's the big question.
It's so like.
Does that do it for you at all? Have you been doing that in 6 years? Like, do you find that, when someone gives you, for instance, criticism or pushback on something, do you take it differently than you used to take it?
Yeah, I definitely think I have become less sensitive. I don't think there's anything wrong with being sensitive. I think I was overly sensitive, but I know just improv is like, of all the art forms I have partaken in, it is the most supportive. And yet there are times when it is hard and there are people who give you criticism or feedback, but they say it the nicest way possible. And so I find that I do that now when I talk to people. I try and pretend like I'm in an improv class because that's where I've felt so supported in this part of my life. And yeah, I've definitely grown in terms of like feeling any pushback, even if it isn't criticism, if it's like fully kind, I can handle it in a way that a couple of years ago I definitely would not have. It would have crushed me.
I think too. Go ahead, sorry, Kev.
No, please do.
I think too, Jax. We're talking about the difference, the difference in sensitivity as like sensitive, like an antenna, as opposed to sensitive like a blister. Like I think we want to be sensitive like an antenna. We're reading that's available to us, and not necessarily sensitive like a blister, and that we could be hurt by anything that comes in contact with us.
Yeah, always like keep it rolling. You know what I mean? It's the next show. It's the next moment in the show, and if you hold on to the negative feelings, that doesn't feel good and it affects you and it sucks.
And when I just use the example of criticism or pushback, but really resistance or or like in the antenna, sort of idea. It's just like data, unwelcome news, just the world's way of resisting your path, your way forward, whatever stands in your way, even if, let's say, it's not a person or necessarily, or it just might be, the ability to change some habit or something. Like you can kind of approach it a little bit differently based on the idea that you have enough.
Yeah.
You already have enough to do the thing that you're trying to do. And it might take trial and error, but you're not on a particular schedule. You'll, if you keep trying it, you'll get it down to the size you need, and then you can do it.
Definitely. I tried to park in 4 different spots before finding one today. And I just kept thinking, like, it's fine. That's not my spot. And I'm going to find my spot. And that sounds so stupid. But no, I swear to God.
I love it.
And as I was doing that, I was like, oh, yep, that's improv. Yeah. Okay. Yep.
Oh, God. That's the 6th chapter of Matthew. There's like a lot of things.
Yeah.
That's the greatest parking story I've heard in a long time.
After the 3rd one, I'm calling everybody and saying, this isn't happening today, guys. Like that good for you for sticking with it, because that car's on fire. I'm never buying another one, and I'm not recording today after that 3rd one.
Let me know if it's a girl or boy.
I mean,
parking around this hospital is impossible.
Yeah. It's really funny how something that seems like a small choice impacts your life, like how I decided to take an improv class and now we're sitting here. But do you remember, this question for both of you, like what made you want to do improv, study improv? Because it's not, from my understanding, I feel like there was a huge improv boom. Like right when I graduated college, it was off the charts. There's schools in every city. It's on every podcast, even if they're not even like I listen to the Gilmore Guys podcast, they're improvisers. They talk about improv theory on the Gilmore, and it's like improv was like huge in the zeitgeist. Was that the case when you decided to start improv? Or was it a whim? What was it?
I don't think there were zeitgeists when we started.
Yeah, it wasn't one.
Hadn't invented zeitgeist yet.
Oh my
We didn't have a
gosh.
feeling of the times. But I will say what there was when we started. There was a boom then. There has been a boom
Yeah.
ever since I started. And everyone has described it as, I've never heard of the improv drought.
No.
There's never been a bust. It's always, for some reason, been a big thing that's going on somewhere nearby.
Yeah.
And it's affecting everyone and everything. And oh my gosh, everything is improv. Look at that flower. It's improv.
Yeah.
There's been that kind of talk has been around forever.
I think part and parcel of that, Kev, it also keeps us in a kind of a pleasant humility for the immediately previous generation. Because I think everyone feels like the people right before them, those were the best freaking people you ever seen.
Yeah,
right.
It must have been. Right.
Yeah.
I don't think, I don't need to go to music or whatever, but, because we know some people that can really play it, and all three of us. And they probably have a similar thing too, I'm guessing, which is the guys I listen to, the men and women I listen to, the kids I listen to, the artists I grew up listening to really, wow, they had it. So, they really were onto something there. I hope I can do that too.
Yeah.
And it's probably drives me to do it, but I'm getting way off the answer, which is,
No.
what were you trying to do? Or what were you if you could just redo it real quick, what was it that made you want to do it? Is that
for me, Jax, it was a friend brought me to Second City for the first time, and I watched that show, and then I watched the set. And as much as I loved the show, the set was something unlike anything I'd ever seen before. I was not familiar with improvisation at all. I was only familiar with sketch comedy from Python and SNL, like stuff I had seen on TV. So I was a little bit familiar with that. But when they had people say words and then they took a break and then they came back and did stuff like that, it was my draw with it was a pure sense of hedonistic pleasure. I thought it looked so much fun. I thought they looked like they were in some form of ecstasy performing it, and it just looked so gosh darn magical that I thought I remember I had the thought I don't think I'll ever be happy if I don't try this. And then what locked the box on me was seeing my first set of Heralds at Improv Olympic, and I was like, well, this is another version of that done in a different, much more dirty down, venue and form. But this even makes more sense to me in a way, because this looks like just like a team of nerds and, and ex stoners and stuff. These look like my people, and they're doing it just next to the bar there. So I think I can touch this. But it was from a purely pleasurable sense that the hook was buried at that point.
I think that's passion.
Yeah. Oh, well, I mean, it really is. I mean, it did. It woke something up. It made you.
Yeah.
You wanted to get involved in what you said. It's accessible. You can walk off the street and doing it. They look like they're having fun. They're together.
Yeah.
My favorite part of being on a number of bad sports teams growing up was the fun we had. Having to run laps after losing a game. I mean, it's just I know it sounds crazy, but it was really fun. It's we failed. We had one thing to do today and we screwed it up. And now, but look at us. We're just running these laps now, aren't we? And criticizing each other while we're, while we're in physical pain. And and we're all on the same page here. It's not my fault.
Absolutely.
And I like that. I like that team bus thing. I mean, I like that.
Yeah.
I like group endeavors. I will say this: I really reacted in the same way that TJ did, in many of the same ways. I was taken to the show. I was taken by my older sister. She said, "You'd probably really enjoy doing this." So she was kind of overselling it to me, because I reacted kind of with revulsion at the idea of being some sort of arty performer.
Mm-hmm.
But when I saw the people on stage, they were so utterly unpretentious. It was an Improv Olympic show at Second City, of all things. But so it's sort of the two things at the same time. But it's a completely improvised show. There's 3 groups. All of them were really, really good. And they were just completely unpretentious. And everything they were doing was done with such with such loving care. Just what they were doing with each other, what they were doing with us. I mean, they asked us to start the show with a suggestion. I'd never seen that happen before.
Yeah.
I'd never been asked anything. So, as an audience member. So except for money. So I just was like, wait, so we tell you what to do? What is this about? It's just immediately, it was so different that it made me instantly want to really instantly try it.
Yeah, it's infectious because
Yeah,
it's
it really was.
community, it's an art, and it's just, yeah, it's a life path kind of. I don't want to sound like I'm like the biggest improviser in the like world, but because I'm not even in this room, but I'm just like I've seen the impact improv has had on my life and others, and it touches like so many different aspects that you don't expect.
There's also no way to make it not sound like a cult or one of
I
those like
know.
multi-level marketing schemes or whatever. There's just no way. This is the way people talk about their profit as well. But
but when he said ecstasy earlier, that's what cults promise. They promise, they do. They promise a state of, they promise an ecstatic life.
Yeah.
And they use the same language for a reason, because an ecstatic life is attainable. They learned it from, the cult, crooks and stuff. They learned that from reading genuine, people who describe genuine ecstatic lifestyles. And they're just like, oh, if you do this, they'll pay us and they'll come in here and then we can lock them down in the basement or whatever. But don't ever forget, cults are imitating other things that were genuine.
Yeah.
Like other genuine pursuits that can lead to the, kind of this way of being, this way of, not being happy all the time, but being able to get into an ecstatic state on stage and really, really enjoy it for the better part of an hour and come off and go, I didn't think I would do that tonight. I didn't think I'd go there. I didn't think he could make something up that didn't exist and make it so real.
Yeah. And
it's not surprising. It's not like cult. They're imitating the language that we're using.
Yeah. And now it's been co-opted by Peloton and, that bike. That is an absolute cult. I'm not going to go on a tangent, but I'm concerned about a few people in my life who have a Peloton.
Just the bike, though, not the treadmill, right?
No, it's really the bike.
Yes, that's what I feel. That's the same way.
Yeah.
Because we had the treadmill, and I feel fine. I feel just fine.
They're just, they're making a lot of money, selling that hunk of metal to people, to promising them promising a thing you can get for free. They just are.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to say. You can get that for free, and you don't even have to work out.
Exactly.
Says the guy. There's the guy.
I've been saying this. No one believes me. You can be happy without working out. I'm serious.
Yeah. I had a teacher at Second City, Mark, whose last name I cannot pronounce, so I'm not going to try because I'm Irish and I only know Irish names. He was wonderful, and someone asked on the last day of class, we're doing Q&A, so how do I make money doing improv? And he just laughed, and he was like, so you're never going to make money doing improv, but you can use improv to do other things.
That can make you some money. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's great, to do other things with improv. But I think something that I know from listening to you guys on a lot of podcasts is like, but your first love still is the improv, like on stage in front of an audience, because it's its purest form.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Pure.
And the only thing I would add as well is whether it's on stage in front of an audience or in a rehearsal room with the other people that you're working on it with. Yeah. Yeah. It's the Kevin and I both grew up on teams. We grew up initially on team sports. And I think once that gets in you, then then a sole victory will never be as satisfying as a team victory. And so finding other people, especially at the time that we were doing it, it was as Noah and Dave Pasquesi described it, it was a guaranteed dead end. So to find other people who wanted to share in these like same hours as you did for a guaranteed dead end, it was like, all right, then we are in an artistic suicide pact together, and I love you guys. Because this room is 102 degrees. And we're still trying to figure out, how to do a two-person scene correctly. There's a bond that is created by people, going for this same unattainable goal as well. Like that there is no perfection that we could achieve so that we'll be done with this. So we are on an endless road that if you that the imagined end is a brick wall, and we're all happy to be doing it. There's something weird that binds people who are that form of sick together.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, I really do think it is the only, outside of maybe musicians who are also improvising, it's the only form where like everyone really is finding this out at the same time. It's cliche, but nobody knows. And so there isn't even that separation between performer and audience where they're being performed for. So the audience should like sit back, relax, and just watch this play because we know what we're doing. We all don't. So we are all going to do this as a group. So even the defining line between performers and audience is removed as well. We're all on the same side, hoping that this goes well.
Yeah.
So there's
and then the discoveries are. Yeah, the discoveries are for everybody, and they're simultaneous, and they're universal for everybody who's involved, watching or playing.
Yeah.
So whatever those discoveries are that I made on stage, and we could use improv examples, but it doesn't matter. They're just they're things that you didn't realize until just now.
Yeah.
That happens to everybody at about the same time. It's a really unusual kind of pursuit where everybody's on the same page the whole time, and like TJ just said, they're hoping for a good result. So they're willing to forgive the other things that we do that aren't so theatrical. No very little stagecraft a lot of times, and no props and no art direction and stuff like that. Yeah. Almost no lighting or any of those supporting arts and crafts. But they're willing to forgive so much because, they're just hoping for something that doesn't result in chaos.
That's a great point, because that forgiveness does not happen with the audience of a play, the audience of a film, the audience of a concert, the audience of an art museum. Like that audience is. Yeah.
We've all been to plays with people like, oh, did you look at that set? It was so ugly. I couldn't pay attention to the show. And you're like, really? I didn't notice, but okay. And so there's nothing, we don't have those things to distract people. And it's not because, and when I say like, when I just said the audience is hoping that there isn't a disaster, that doesn't mean that that's the bar. That, that all we have to do is to make it a non-disaster. We also have to make it about ourselves so that we're making an exhibition of something. We're telling you something about ourselves that you didn't know about us. And maybe we didn't even know about us until just now too. Yeah. And that's a lot more key and a lot more exciting than just, having a show with people entertained.
Absolutely. The number of times I've come home from an improv show and my mom said, "How was it?" And I said, "Oh my God." And I try and describe it. And she's like, looking at me like, how have I raised this person who's speaking in tongues? And I'm like,
imagine when your mom's asking you about work and that's your answer.
Yep.
How's work? It was amazing.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I think the most cool thing to me is people who can make their passion their job. That seems like I have many goals, but whoa, that would blow my mind. You know what I mean? Just to have your passion keep you in clothes and food, that's so cool. And I know both of you, I keep speaking for you. I'm not trying to speak for you, but I feel like you've done that from where I stand. Do you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So what's that like?
I'll tell you what happens a little bit. I don't know why I'm suddenly the serious guy, but I'm going to shake it off after this.
Okay.
But if you took the stuff that you've been learning the last 6 years and you next year had a cool job, something you'd like, and you're performing or writing or both, and you're making like surprisingly good income from it. Wow, I didn't think I'd get to this. You'll be doing that. And I guarantee you some part of that job there's going to be a limitation on it somewhere where it's like, oh yeah, that's great. Your writing's great, your acting's great, but don't do this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's that don't do this part of it that's going to make you go, oh, wow, okay. So, all right.
So this is a job, huh?
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I'm going to, you know what I'm going to do this weekend when I'm not working? I'm going to do an improv show. And no one's going to tell me that I didn't and couldn't do this. And then I'll come back on Monday and we're going to take it from there.
Yeah.
And so the one feeds the other. It's like in one place you're accepting a kind of limitation, and that's the trade-off, which makes sense, so that you can get it done. You're the writing or performing done in an orderly way, and that it can be a transaction where you get paid and stuff. And then you go back to this passion thing, and that helps you work out whatever your reaction was to the limitations you were dealing with in the job.
Right.
So you're using one to feed the other, and they really are quite complementary. Like I was a writer on Conan for 9 years. So we get to perform all the time on that show.
Mm-hmm.
So you could write something that day and rehearse it that afternoon, be on TV that night right before you went to bed. And it was just great. And then you'd come back and do it again tomorrow. We do this 4 and 5 times a week. Okay. But on the weekends, I would go do long form improv, because as cool as that job was, there was loads of stuff we couldn't do.
Right.
But not on Sunday night at UCB. We could do whatever we want. And we did it. And that went on for 9 years. I almost never missed a show, because I was like, oh no, when Sunday night rolls around, I want to do ASCAT. I want to do UCB with my friends, where we don't have to worry about anything.
Yeah,
Kevin and I, Jax, we're working at Second City at the same time. We did a show there together. We would rehearse during the day and then do the show at night. And we did 8 shows a week, 6 nights a week, Tuesday through Sunday. On Monday night, our night, went up Olympic and improvised in the Armando. Because I don't know, we just couldn't get enough. Also, like, during the day, we were improvising for product. And so the set was even to work out new scenes to try and get into the show. So we still wanted to go improvise for pleasure. And that was the one night off we could do it, was to go up then and do it, so that we weren't worried about making, improvising for something that had to be turned into something. We could just improvise for the sake of improvising. And
that's all true. That's exactly right. And that Monday night helped us from Tuesday to Sunday. And Tuesday to Sunday didn't exactly hurt Monday night either.
No.
Because we'd come in raring to go on Monday, you and I, T, because we had just done a whole week's work and 8 shows. And we're like, now let's get out and do all the stuff, all the moves we don't do there.
Just like a plow horse without the plow on Monday Monday night. Yeah.
Wow.
All right. Like parking when you don't need to park. We just go out parking.
and Jax,
for parking spots.
I would say, like, the upshot of my being able to make a living at the thing that I loved was it kept me in a spot where I felt very fortunate all the time. I felt like the luckiest kid in the world at each stage, at getting to tour, at being put on the stage. I ended up being hired to do these commercials that I did for a number of years for Sonic that were improvised. And at that point you feel super, super lucky. Like, I'd done a couple of very small parts in movies, but they were always with the leeway that there was going to be aspects of them that were improvised, and I don't know how the hell that worked out, but that was, you just stay in this, hopefully I stay in this sense of like gratitude and good fortune. And I don't think there have been many days, months, or years where I didn't think of myself as being extremely lucky all the way along the line. And I think I was too. Like, I don't think that's me just being like, oh man, I guess I was lucky. I think I was. For as much talent, and Kevin and I both know people that are talented and as talented and more talented than us, we got a decent amount of breaks in there too, because that just also has to happen. Sometimes you just have to get lucky.
Absolutely. Yeah. I like thinking about the gratitude because I think that as a parent, I've seen you both perform live, and I think you can tell you're having fun, and that creates a better show. So I'm being selfish as the audience member, being like, this is great, but I'm also watching like, wow, I'm so happy they're happy and like having fun, because that's the best thing, is to see someone have fun.
Oh boy, it sure is. And it's whether it's on a TV show or a movie, you can tell, you can smell it when somebody doesn't
Yeah.
want to be there. It's so obvious, and it is the worst.
It's obvious and contagious.
Yeah, and it's super contagious, right?
It never ceases to amaze me, Jax. Every once in a while, I'll teach or do a workshop, and someone will be like, "This job sucks," or like, "I'm in this shitty relationship." Like, you're making believe, you're making it up that the world is your oyster, and you invent a job you hate. Like, you put yourself in it. You hire yourself for a job that you despise. Like, do you not like? And don't you know then how we feel watching that? Like, this masochist just gave himself a cruddy job, and now I feel cruddy too, because now I got to work this damn job with him as an audience member. I got to watch him go to a job he hates, and the world was open to your invention, and that's what you did too.
And there's good news for that guy. And I'll tell you something, Jax, this happens all the time. About a year later, that same guy will get asked the same thing. Get up there, go anywhere, be anything, make it as optimal as you like or whatever you want. And he'll go up there. That same guy, a year later, will go up and go, I love this job. And then the rest of the people in that scene will make sure that we see that he has the worst job in the world, but that he says he loves it.
Yeah.
That's starting to look like something I recognize.
Yeah.
Like the Far Side guy.
A person that's convincing themselves that they are valuable at work when they're not.
The Far Side guy who's whistling with his barrel full of bricks in hell.
Yeah.
And the devil's like, hey, I just don't think we're getting through to this guy.
This guy doesn't got it. He doesn't get it yet. But like, whether he's sincerely happy or whether he's kidding himself, whatever, he's made the improv choice to say, I dig it.
Yeah.
And now we're going to find out if that's true or not, and if it isn't true, why not? And it's so much better than it's so funny to bring up the example of, go anywhere, do anything. You're magic, do anything. I hate my marriage. I hate my job. Wow. Okay. Okay. Let's start over.
Yeah.
But oftentimes you will see it happen when you're dealing with the same student or whatever for a little while. You see them make that turn to go, but let's just say that I view it as something great. Now why? Now what's happening? What's happening if I think it's good, even though all the evidence suggests it isn't?
Yeah.
Does that mean I'm deluded, or does that mean I'm an optimistic person, or what is that? And that's a question any individual has to ask themselves pretty often. Like, I just said someone asked me how I was doing it. I said, I'm fine. Is that the right answer? And says, how are you? I'm fine. Well, I'm simplifying it a lot when I say fine.
Yeah.
But here's the thing too, like, I don't have to get too dense into improvisational theory, but if you start with something wrong, I hate this job, or someone's sad or someone's bummed, the only and natural question is why? What's the matter? What's wrong with you? Why are you sad? When people are happy, how you doing today? Good. No one ever says why. They just say great. Yeah. And then they move on to the next thing. So like something not being wrong frees you to move ahead and progress with something, as opposed to backtrack to come up with the reason why, which only moves you backwards. And that is another thing that, when you asked earlier of like, how do I see improvisation in my life? I know I'm right-minded when I look with gratitude or joy towards whatever the thing is next. I remember saying to Kev asked me like, what's going on this week? It's like, you really want to know what's going on this week? I'm trying to stop referring to things in my life as I have to go, and saying I get to go. that not, I have to go see this. I have to go to this rehearsal. I have to go grocery shopping, and just like, I get to see this person. I get to go, to this rehearsal. I get to go grocery shopping. If I can bring that positivity into my world, then I can start to move forward with everything, as opposed to backwards as to why this sucks. Why do I not want to do this? Why do I have to do this shit? Which is all in reverse.
Yeah.
You want to get real culty?
Yeah.
If you look at it that way, then when something genuinely terrible happens to you, you have the freedom to mourn it the way you need to.
And you can actually recognize it.
Yeah. Now I know.
Oh, this really is bad.
Yeah, this one's bad. I know what this is sad, and I'm sad because of it. And I'm not kidding anymore. Like, I'm not, I don't, that way you're not just being Larry David, like, oh, what's someone give me flowers, like, I'm gonna be allergic. That's just a comedy thing. But someone gave me flowers because I'm bummed out is not a comedy thing.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That's not that. Now that's suddenly a real thing. And so like, you want to know more about it. I don't know, like, I hope this is making sense.
Jax, is this where you thought this was going to go?
This is way off.
This sounds like you invited two crazy old guys to
stop. No, I love
she's
my whole
thinking
thing
about
is
that meter now.
Oh no. I found free parking in Logan Square. So no, I love seeing where conversations go. Like, I usually come with a couple questions, but I didn't want to come with too many questions because, like, this is improvised.
Yeah, have we gotten to your second question?
Question 2.
No, I think that's the beauty of podcasts, is like the things that you don't expect to hear about. So
guarantee you that.
Yeah. I do have a question.
Speaking of questions.
Here we go. Yes.
Here we go. Segue. So I remember randomly going to a performance of Blessing at I.O. a couple of years ago, seeing that Kevin was on stage, like freaking out, and being like, okay, so should I say hi after? Like, he's not going to know who I am. For everyone listening, Kevin's brother is my uncle. So I, have known Kevin peripherally, and I got very excited. After the show, I worked up the courage to say hello. You were so kind, and you gave me the best advice, which was find your people. And I see you two have found each other as your people, and I'm sure there's many more people.
Mm-hmm.
But why do you think that's important?
Kevin, I'll
do it.
Good. Okay, this is on topic. This isn't just Kevin has constantly gone through demotions in my eyes. He went from my idol, my mentor, to my. But what drew me to Kevin initially was idolizing him. He was part of a cast and a crew, literally a cast, but also a group of people that I idolized. And Kevin would performed a bunch with Steph Weir and also with Scott Adsit, Tina and Rachel, and those were my improvising idols. And so initially it was magnetism, charisma, idolization that drew me to Kev. But as I got to spend more time around Kevin, there was also, he kind of taught me how to behave in these circles. It was like being invited to the round table, and he's like, here's how you go about being a good castmate. Here's how you go about trying to help out someone's idea, being up and available, and literally it might've just been in rehearsal, and people bring in like a scene or whatever, and they say like, who do you want for it? As soon as they call your name, hop right up and be excited to go do it. It's little things like that are like, that make, when you say like, who are your people, is like, oh, my people are the other ones that do that. Or in this case, the one who told me like, this is how to be helpful to someone. This is how to be a good castmate. So David Pasquesi also, when people would ask, David Pasquesi is a really influential improviser and a fellow I got to perform a bunch with. And I often go to him for wisdom on subjects like this, but he is a big fan of saying, go find your people. And, when people ask like, well, I want to improvise this way, and everyone in my group just wants to make all these jokes. He's like, you're playing with the wrong people, man. Like, find the other people who want to improvise the way that you do, who want to take it seriously and invest and do those moments. So I think it's important because it also sets you free to be the artist that you want to be. You're not working against a current. You're working with the people who also want to swim in that direction or pull oars in that fashion. So I tried to actually be of use by the end of that question for you, Jax.
It was great.
Now I'll turn it over to Kevin.
Thank you.
This isn't going anywhere. Don't worry. This won't be deep. Dave Pasquesi is a good friend of both of ours, and I started in a similar situation because when I first started taking class, Dave was on stage at Second City with Chris Farley and Joel Murray and Holly Wortell, Judy Scott, all these people that I thought were just phenomenal performers. So I really looked up to him, and I definitely idolized him. And then he became a friend, and he became someone. He got demoted. He became a guy I worked with. He became a guy I knew. He became a guy I hung around with. Then at one point, he became kind of a tour guide in Rome. And then he got demoted all the way down to my driver. He was giving me a lift to a Lazio AC Roma game on the back of his Vespa in a rain while it was raining in Rome. And I was like, this is cool. I used to really look up to this guy. Now I'm going to die on the back of his Vespa.
Oh my God.
I didn't think the story was going to end this way. I was going to die on my way to a soccer match on this guy's scooter. That was a very fun ride.
I bet.
Well, you said that it was good advice that that I gave you some good advice. Find your people. What happened?
I found my people.
Tell me more.
I started Second City, and I met this girl who was a couple years younger than me, and she had moved from Miami to Chicago to study improv. And I had the complete opposite. I didn't think improv was going to be my thing. I was just like doing a fun thing after work. But she was so into it, and we started taking every single class together. We took every single level at Second City. We took every single level at IO. We took dramatic improv with Rachel Mason, which is my favorite class I've ever taken. Cool. Like dramatic improv is like, that's my favorite. Yeah. And like, let me cry while trying to make someone laugh. Like that's my thing. And then we did CIC, and she's one of my closest friends, even though she's moved to New York, and we don't talk as much, but like I could call her and like she would answer, and same for me, but it's just so cool, the connections and the people I've met that I just, you don't get to choose who's in your improv class.
Nope.
You don't. But I think
you can choose who you're going to talk to after.
Absolutely. Yeah, and you see people and you were like, oh, that was cool. Okay, they're like, they got it going on. I'm going to talk to them, and I'm going to try and be cool. And then like 3 months later, you're telling them your deepest secrets, and you're telling them embarrassing stories about yourself, and like, that's beautiful.
It's great. It was good. I agree with you. I give you good advice, but I got it from someone good too. So I was just passing it along.
I appreciate that.
You used it. Like, that's really great. I'm really happy that you and your mate found, such a good connection. That's going to be around forever. Your friends performing in New York, doing something, pursuing something.
Yeah. Writing a play.
Yeah. That's going to come back. You're going to do stuff together.
Right. It's so cool.
I guarantee you. I didn't, my first improv class, there was this guy from Long Island, and he had come to Chicago on his motorcycle because he was going to go to Sturgis for a motorcycle rally.
Oh, really?
He was like, and his motorcycle broke down. So he's killing time waiting for his motorcycle to get fixed. So he went into a freaked out bookstore, and one of these, we used to have interesting bookstores back when I was young. And so he went into this oddball bookstore and ran into our teacher to Del Close. And he'd heard about him because this guy was also a reader of comic books and sci-fi and stuff. So he knew who Del was. And he's like, oh yeah, definitely. If you're teaching a class, I want to hang out. I want to come see it. That guy ended up keeping his motorcycle even after it was fixed. He never went to Sturgis. He stayed in Chicago. And 30 years later, he gave me a job on The Mandalorian.
That's it.
Because he was this sci-fi geek from Long Island. He's Jon Favreau. And
Unreal.
was this interesting dude, and we stayed friends. He did all sorts of great stuff. He's like a mogul now, but he was just a guy that was looking to find people that got, he was just doing what you were doing, what we were doing, looking for people that get it. He totally found it in Chicago, and he used it. But like that, I don't think it's going to take 30 years for you and her to do something again, but it will happen. I guarantee you that you'll do stuff.
Well, I hope so. And I just want to say thank you guys for this part of the show. I want to leave it on that note.
What?
I have more. We do a little thing where I ask a pop themed question.
No.
And there's like a bunch of different subjects because pop is a very popular word. So the question that I chose for you two, because I know you both have mentioned music, is this. Pop music is known as popular music. I would define it as a song, a genre of music that, say this song in particular, your grandma knows it and your baby cousin knows it. So I'll put this out to you both, and you can give me one word or you can give me an explanation. What is the best pop song ever written?
Okay. I'll tell you the last time I had this feeling, it was about 3 a.m. MTV was still showing videos every once in a while. I called my friend Billy Bungaroth, who was a musician, a soul musician at the time. I called him at 3 a.m. and I said, I just heard the best pop song that's ever been made. And it was Outkast's Hey Ya.
Awesome.
That was the last time I felt like this might be the greatest pop song.
Yeah, this is going to be a world beater.
Because it's also got some other. It's also got some. The first song I ever think of when someone says pop music is I think of like Sugar, the Archies.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think of that and like that's like it's kind of like cotton candy disappears in your mouth. Like that's bad music to me. And that song kind of like makes no impression to me. It washes over and then I'm okay never hearing that song ever again. Hey Ya to me still had some weird kind of like intrinsic soul value to it or some
authentic
cachet. Yeah, there was something to it. It was like, this is a real thing. And it is incredibly catchy. And it's like 3 different songs. They're all great songs inside there. Yeah. And so there's 2 popular references. There's like Beyonce is mentioned and Lucy Liu is mentioned. And it's not like this has Polaroid all these quality, right? Like there's all these mentions that make it, kind of popular esque or whatever. So that's a long answer to that is Outkast Hate.
Cool.
Oh, Groove's coming.
Oh, my video
it's been popular since the Tudor period.
I mean, I know it is Whose Child Is This, but I caught the later versions of it once it was selling out concerts.
I know it is Whose Child Is This? I'm not up on my Tudor top 40.
Kevin walked into a scene one time as a dad. He was in a castle, and Rachel was his daughter, and it was like, and she was listening to music. It was like, what is this choral bullshit? Atonal chant. Now that's music.
Oh my
Remember God. when I told you what did Brahms say when he heard Mozart? That's not music. That's noise. I probably got the references wrong, but it's like everybody's like good music is someone else's least favorite thing.
No, yeah.
What is the best pop song? Well, that's a fair question. I better give it my best try. So you're thinking, hey, and that's a great answer, by the way. I really admire that answer. I want to say Sugar, Sugar, just to go for the laugh.
Well, is there another song that has a repeat title that you think very highly of? That because I know.
Moni.
Well, I thought I was thinking Louie Louie. I was thinking the Kingsmen.
Louie.
Oh yeah.
It has a lot of is the basis for a lot of other stuff too.
From your grandma to your baby cousin, no one knows the words to. Louie Louie isn't a bad guess. I'll go with Louie Louie.
Awesome.
No one knows the words to it, yet it's still really great. And Louie Louie You asked me, Jax, in your email when we were still figuring out when we were going to do this, what my what's a good example of a passion or predilection or whatever that I had. And I told you that originality has always fascinated me. Yeah. And Louie, like Dave Marsh wrote a whole book about that song. And it's a really fun, easy book to read. It's not, I don't know why I say easy, but I just mean it's just a really,
it's not too wonky, right?
It's exactly. It's not wonky at all. And you don't need to be a musician or even a record fan to care about the way he tells the story. It's about this song that all these bands play. And wait a minute, where did this come from? And it's a really great explanation of where we got the song from. And I won't ruin the journey for anyone who wants to go check it, get into it and find out. But it's like this for me, like that I'll say this about Louie. I haven't ever called anyone about it, but I will say this, and this is true. There's never been a time I've heard it when I didn't want to hear it. Yeah. So that's me. I'm saying Louie.
I love it. That's so cool. So the last portion of the show is we're gonna do our passion plugs. I'll go first real quick. My passion plug is in honor of the unwavering support I've received from my friend and writing partner, Madeline. Very early on in the process of this project, she recommended I reach out to people I would qualify as dream guests who I was sure would say no. It is thanks to her that I have had the honor of having this conversation. And, excuse me, her recommendation is the Great Pottery Throwdown, which is on HBO. She thinks, I haven't watched it, but she says this will bring you joy. This is what she wanted to put out into the world today. So I turn it over to you two. What's your passion plug?
We have the same one. It's the same thing. We've been doing it for a long time now, 20 years, I think. I'll let TJ take it.
The charity that is goes by the Poverty Alleviation Charities now. It was born at Second City by Heather Winna and Andy Cobb, and I was in on the ground floor of that a long time ago as a Letters to Santa benefit. And each Christmas time, usually we do the benefit around Thanksgiving. Now we raise money and answer these letters from Onward House Chicago, and Heather and Steve Albini go and fill out all the wishes for the children. Everyone in the family gets a computer and set up, and then they get some straight cash, because she believes the way to cure poverty is handing adults money and letting them make decisions with it. Yep. And so that's what they do. And we're helped out each year by amazing musicians. The first and foremost of whom is Jeff Tweedy, who does it every single year and has single-handedly raised over $1 million for this charity that we try and help out with. Kev flies home usually from Los Angeles or New York or wherever he is, and hangs out there. And yeah, that would be. What am I leaving anything out, Kev?
It was really humble and one step at a time. It used to involve going down to the post office and picking up letters that were addressed to Santa, and just picking one from a pile where you're like, oh, I think I can afford to get gifts for a family of 4. I'll go for a family of 5 just to push it one, and you do that, and then you'd end up spending like about a month's pay on Christmas gifts for people you'd never met. Mm-hmm. And I drove down there with your uncle Chuck. I drove down to one of these apartments once on the West Side with Chuck, and we did this. This was back when I was just doing it single-handedly, although he helped. He was very helpful. Your aunt and uncle were very helpful. They kept the stuff that I was buying. I kept shipping it to their house so that when I get there from New York, I could take it with them. And, they kept the stuff at their house. We drove down there. We doled out the stuff. It was really cool. It was a great day and afternoon. We get to meet these folks and making their Christmas a little cooler and stuff. And then because of Heather's organizational, energy and her genius for scaling things up and attracting people to a good idea, which she's really uniquely great at, she got all of these incredibly great artists and giving people together. And we've been together.
The Breeders came, Jax. If you don't know the Breeders,
she gets the Deal sisters and and Fred Armisen and all these wonderful
St. Vincent and
and the people that were in the Mekons and all these great bands, and because they know all sorts of music people, because Steve is a record engineer, and they make it happen every year at Second City, and we've been doing it every year. We didn't even skip last year. We did a virtual one, and we'll be doing it again at the end of this year. So come to it.
Yeah.
You'll see what we're talking about.
Here's the wraparound for you, Jax. This started when I was in a cast with a fellow named Andy Cobb on the ETC, and we were doing the set. We were doing the improv set afterwards. And one of us said to the other, like, man, do I love improvising? And the other one said, like, yeah, wouldn't it be great to do it for 24 hours? And then Andy's like, I'm going to make that happen. Andy found the very, very first one. It was the only time it was done for a homeless shelter. He found this place called Rest, this homeless shelter up on the north side. The only one that was 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. And the very first one was done because we wanted to improvise more. We didn't get enough of it. And so that's what bore it out, was this passion for being able to improvise with our friends. And that's how it started.
And if you like improvisation, and let's say like you love improvisation,
you won't buy hour 17. Test it.
Watch it for 24 hours straight. Whoa.
See if you still like it. If you do,
talk to
then
me after that.
All right, I will definitely
talk to me after that. You'll see us this November if you come by. I guarantee you'll get in. It's not a problem getting in.
Yeah, I'll be
You'll
there.
get in. Come 3:00 in the morning. We'll be there. We'll be awake. We'll be on stage, and we'll hang.
Awesome.
And you'll see what happens when people get together and just give the heck out of what they have to people they've never met who need it. It is passion.
Yeah, that's exactly it. That's why I think this part of the show is important, because giving back is everything. And the fact that when you give back, things come back to you is just a cherry. That's not what it's about. You know what I mean? It's really about people helping other people and the journey and the circle of life. So I want to thank you guys so much. This has meant so much to me, and I have had the best time. Is there anywhere you want people to follow you online? If there isn't, that's cool.
Nope.
Nope. Please don't look us up online.
No, I absolutely respect that. I wish I had that.
Nope. The less you follow me online,
Good
the
luck.
better off we're all going to be.
Good luck finding us.
Yeah. Try. Go. Please go for it.
Yes,
I have no social media accounts, so happy hunting.
Yeah, that's an inspiration to me. I wish I didn't have to be online. All right, so thank you all for listening to Pop of Passion, produced by Christine Ferreira. Please follow the show on social media at Pop of Passion and popofpassionpodcast.com. Go out and be the light, living your passion.